Today, we're talking all about lamb. Lamb is delicious. I love lamb.
I love lamb. I love lamb.
So I can and do eat lamb almost every day, but there are a lot of people who don't consume lamb regularly. Maybe they don't like it or they don't know where to find it. At the end of this video, I have a pro tip that will turn anyone into a lamb lover. But before I get into that, let's talk about the life-changing benefits of this forgotten protein. Number one, lamb is loaded with omega-3s. Omega-3s are beneficial for so many reasons, but a big catch-all is that they help fight inflammation. Depression, anxiety, arthritis, so many things trace the roots to inflammation. When talking about omega fatty acids, two most common ones are omega-3s and omega-6s. There is a ratio that you want to strike between those two. Basically, you want a lot of omega-3s to omega-6s. Now, there's a lot of literature that goes back and forth on exactly how much. The best that I've found is a 4-to-1 ratio, 4 being omega-6 to 1 omega-3s. I think that a better thing to shoot for is 1-to-1, which is very hard unless you are supplementing or just pounding cold water fish for 2 meals a day. So 4-to-1 is really great. If you want to compare that to what those on the standard American diet are having, closer to 16-to-1 or 20-to-1. So you can see how going from standard American diet to actually paying attention to this and even getting 6-to-1, 4-to-1, more in that range is a really big difference. Popular places you can find omega-3 fatty acids, aside from supplements, are going to be eggs, lamb, fish, particularly cold water fish. Salmon's also kind of a renowned omega-3 big hitter. If you look at lamb and compare it to salmon, for example, lamb has about half of the omega-3 to omega-6 contents that salmon has. So if you're like me and you don't love fish, but you know that it's good for you, lamb is a great choice because you're getting so much more omega-3 fatty acids into your diet and you don't have to eat fish. If you like fish, I am truly happy for you. I know it's good for me. It's just not my favorite thing in the world. Now, I'm not here to throw shade at beef. Grass-fed beef is amazing on its omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acid ratio, but lamb still beats it out. So lamb is about a 5-to-2 ratio. You can basically consider it 2.5-to-1 ratio, but that doesn't work out in good math, so they say 5-to-2, but let's say 2.5-to-1. Makes things easier that way. Grass-fed cow is 3 or 4-to-1. A feedlot cow is closer of 10-to-1. Conventionally raised chicken is going to be around 18-to-1. Pork can vary quite a bit depending on its breed and the management style, but pork is going to be between 10-to-1 and 20-to-1. I would imagine a pig that is raised more in the forest or on a pasture and has a diet of more foraging is going to have a better ratio, but I haven't seen data on that. It just makes sense intuitively that it would be that way. So lamb is 2.5-to-1. Let's talk about that compared to fish. Wild-caught salmon is pretty close to 1-to-1 ratio. Some have found that sometimes it can be even greater than 1-to-1, meaning there are actually more omega-3s than there are omega-6s. It's pretty rare, but it can happen. Sardines are a 1-to-2 ratio, which is also insanely good. So comparatively speaking, lamb kind of has this cool reputation of being like walking salmon. Okay, let's talk about another game changer. It's CLA. That's a naturally occurring fatty acid that's found in a lot of ruminant meat as well as their milk. CLA does some very cool things within the body and tag teams very nicely with omega-3. So CLA signals to your body that you should be putting on muscle, which is always a good thing. So aside from having a better body composition, more muscle has a lot of benefits. One of those being that it ups your metabolic rate. That means that while you're not working out, your body is burning more calories at a rested state. So replacing fat with muscle is good for a lot of reasons. One of the biggest ones is that toxins in your body are often stored within the fat. So replacing extra fat with muscle helps get excess toxins out of your body. So having more muscle can help regulate blood sugar, which is really good if you're at risk for type 2 diabetes. There's also a lot of studies showing a link between how much muscle mass you carry and age longevity. So if you want to live long and look shredded, CLA is a great fit. Thanks, lamb. Okay, life-changing benefit number 3, and then after this one, I'm going to go into how it's benefited my life. But this has got to be the B vitamin super supplement of lamb. Eating lamb is basically like eating a vitamin B complex with your meal. This is really valuable because this powers your nerves, your spine, and your brain, really the entire nervous system. And the nervous system is so central to achieving homeostasis. When our bodies are not able to regulate ourselves because our nervous system isn't communicating with the organs and the brain, that can lead to a really rough state. It's hard to achieve homeostasis when you have a dysregulated nervous system. Now, probably my favorite benefit from lamb, and beef has this to an extent, but I really notice this with lamb, is the vitamin B that you find in lamb really just gives you a really positive feeling. There are lots of studies that show that ruminant red meat has a lot of vitamin B in it, and it can help fight things like depression, stress, and anxiety. I can say that lamb definitely has that effect as well. You'll notice also, if you're a gym rat and you're taking pre-workouts, a lot of pre-workouts have vitamin B in them. That's because it just kind of gives you that extra oomph you need to like get to the gym and like hit it hard. Lamb has very similar to that, obviously in a more naturally occurring form. So let's see here. We've covered fights inflammation, helps put on muscle, makes you happier, and gives you more energy. Let me talk just for a second about what it's done for my life specifically. I raise sheep. Yay! I raise grass-fed lamb. That's a big chunk of what I do on my homestead. Been doing it for about 4 years now. I've been able to feed my family lamb. In fact, just last week we had our annual haul where we brought home about 300 pounds of lamb, which basically sets us up for the year, and we're able to give and sell a lot of it to local families and communities. Lamb has also been really beneficial because you can buy it in bulk. So even before I was raising sheep, I was buying it in bulk. So that's a tip that I want to give. Buying lamb in bulk is much easier than buying cow in bulk. So let me explain. A cow will have something between like rough numbers, like if you're buying a quarter of a cow, between like 250, 350 pounds of meat that you're going to get from that cow. Even a quarter of a cow, that's a lot of meat. Or half a pig, that's about like 100 pounds, maybe 150 pounds of meat from half of a pig. That's a lot of meat to be dealing with. One sheep, you're probably going to get between 40 and 60 pounds of meat back from these sheep. That's so much more manageable meat. Also, I love the idea of consuming nose to tail, so much easier to do with a smaller animal. Buying sheep in bulk is less stress than buying and going through 350 pounds of beef. Some of you may also know this, is that I've been on the carnivore diet for about 8 or 9 months now, and lamb has been really the thing that kind of like launched us into that. So lamb's also really changed my life because, you eat what you have, right? I find that there are really 2 things that keep people from regularly consuming lamb, even carnivores. And if you're not carnivore, this is still for you too. More people should be eating lamb. 1, they don't like the taste. They think that it has a greasy or gamey taste. 2, they don't know where to get it or they don't know how to shop for it. Let's start with number 1. So if you don't like the taste of lamb, it could be because you have just had a bad one. So there are 2 kinds of sheep. There's wool sheep, which we're all very familiar with, and then there are hair sheep. I raise exclusively hair sheep, and here's why. They don't produce wool to the same quality as a wool sheep, obviously. They're hair sheep. So what does that actually mean for you? Well, when people talk about lamb having a greasy or gamey or an acquired taste, what they're referring to is lanolin oil. That's the taste that you get in your meat. That's what makes it greasy or gamey. Hair sheep, as you might imagine, produce way less lanolin oil because they don't have wool like a wool sheep does. They get a little bit, I won't get into the science of that, but it's very different ballpark. And so they still taste slightly lamby, but not to the extent that you'll get with a wool sheep. So if you don't like the taste of lamb, find hair sheep. Which brings me to point number 2, how the heck do you shop for sheep? Because lamb is something that's not really in, every grocery store. It's sometimes hard to find. You might not know what cuts you want. Here's my best suggestion, okay? Farmer's market, people. Farmer's market lamb is almost always going to be hair sheep. So that hits point number 1 and point number 2. You're going to get better tasting sheep, and you're going to know that you're supporting someone local who has taken a lot of care and effort into raising this sheep. Ask them what kind of sheep they raise, if it's hair sheep or wool sheep. If it's hair sheep, give it a try because it's probably going to be something that you're going to really enjoy. And you don't even need a fancy cut. I like ground lamb. Heck, when I get my lambs processed, I actually exclude quite a bit of cuts just to make more ground lamb because I like it that much. So start with ground lamb, experiment with that, and see if you like it. If you're new and kind of squeamish about it, mix it with beef. 1 part beef, 1 part lamb. See how you like it. Whether you're carnivore or not, more lamb in your diet's a good thing. Thanks for stopping by today. I'm PJ, and I'll see you on the next video. Go get some lamb. I'll see you at the farmer's market.